Happy Halloween, everyone! Spoilers for Halloween Kills. Yeah, I still think it's a dumbass name, but what can you do? Name it better is what you could have done. I mean, you could have called it Halloween Murders. That's a much better name. So he's back. The one, the only, Michael Myers. No, not that one, the other one. Yep, there you go. So, as you all know, I love Halloween. It's my favourite slasher series. So when they announced that Michael Myers was coming back and they were retconning everything but the first movie, I was thrilled. And my review of the 2018 Halloween movie was very positive, and I stand by that. So, let's take a look at its 2021 follow-up, Halloween Makes You Dead. And first of all, I would just like to say, it does not hold back. People die. Lots and lots of murder-death kills. I mean, two of my favourite parts was when Michael was slaughtering entire groups of people. Right at the start, we see Michael emerge from Laurie's burning house, and oh my god, does it look cool. Michael stands there in the middle of the night with a burning building behind him as the firefighters look out in horror, one holding an axe, another a circular saw, another a hose pipe. Less intimidating, but they are firefighters, and they know what's coming. Michael walks forwards. They ready their weapons, and they die horribly. Then later in the movie, a lynch mob has formed to get him, and they eventually get their chance. But Michael just slaughter kills them to death. And yes, I know the original Halloween was never about the gore or the body count, but I can't deny the way it's done here, and indeed in the 2018 movie, is very well done. It's like Michael Myers Unleashed. We still get to see the creepy, stalky side of him, but we also get treated to the sheer brutality of it as well. And like I said in the review for the 2018 movie, I think it has a lot to do with the fact that he has just spent 40 years locked up. So he's got some pent-up rage to let out. And he finds the most healthy way of doing so. So yeah, the death scenes. Love them. The characters though... So this is a trilogy, which will end with Halloween Ends. But for this one, Jamie Lee Curtis isn't a huge part of it. She survived the last film and spends this one in hospital, which makes nothing but sense, but clearly is also a nod to Halloween 2. Only this time, Michael doesn't care for hunting Laurie down, which was made clear in the 2018 film. I mean, the only reason they had a showdown in the last film was because his nutbag doctor was obsessed with seeing Michael and Laurie face off against one another. So this is clearly not Laurie's film. But that being said, I definitely thought her scenes were both justified and added a lot to the film. Allison, Laurie's granddaughter, definitely remains in the focus, as well as new characters, or should I say, returning characters from the 1978 original. Look! It's Tommy and Lindsay, the kids from the first film! Out of the two, Tommy definitely gets more screen time, and we see how the night he came home affected him. So Tommy has spent his life telling stories of that night, and clearly cannot move on, but he is big on community and helping people, even if his methods are a little misguided. For example, when he learns that Michael is back, he's the one that forms the lynch mob, which, as we all know, always ends very well. And what this lynch mob achieves is trampling people at a hospital after thinking they see Michael Myers, when in actuality it's somebody that's guilty of nothing more than not being Michael Myers, and ultimately it leads to that individual's death. And that individual was actually one of the inmates that lived in the same place as Michael, who escaped in the same bus crash. Except he's not as violent as Michael. I mean, I'm sure he's probably been violent in the past. I mean, he's kept alongside Michael for a reason, I suppose. Maybe. But we're supposed to feel bad for him here because he got ran off a roof by a lynch mob, which is obviously bad and everything, but I mean, I don't really feel bad for him because A, We don't know anything about him other than that he reminds me of the Penguin because he carries an umbrella. And also that Judy Greer's character comforts him before he jumps off the roof. So we feel bad for him. Except for the fact that we know nothing about him, but we feel bad for him. Because she comforts him. And that's all we need. We don't need character development. No. No, we don't. We just need Laurie's daughter to comfort them, and then we feel bad. So yeah, this blood-crazed lynch mob doesn't really achieve much in this film, to be honest. I mean, it's kind of funny. We do spend a lot of time with it though, so it does drag on a bit. I mean, we know ultimately where it's going. They do get their crack at stopping Michael, and they do beat him up. They shoot him a few times, and it looks like Michael's dead and everything's fine. Judy Greer does this thing where she tricks him, and she's like, "Got ya!" And then they all start beating Michael up. And then she goes off into Michael's old house and looks out. And then it turns out that because Laurie Strode resurrected him by doing a voiceover on how brutality can never stop Michael because he's pure evil and immortal and he'll kill everything to death, he then gets up and kills everything to death, sneaks into his old house, past all of the paramedics and Allison, I don't know, gets past all of them, and then kills Judy Greer. And I'm calling her Judy because I can't remember the character's name. But it's Laurie's daughter, who's now dead. And you know what? I actually liked her. She was fun in the first 2018 film, and she's fun in this one, and now she's dead. Well, I assume she's dead. I mean, I assumed Officer Hawkins was dead, who died in the last film, or not died as it turns out, because he's alive! Which brings me on to Officer Hawkins. But before we go to Officer Hawkins, I just want to mention Sheriff Brackett's also in it. Not for long, and he dies as well. And before we get on to Officer Hawkins properly, because things just keep popping up into my head, I'd just like to say, bringing back all of these legacy characters like Tommy, Lindsay, Sheriff Brackett, even the nurse that gets dragged out of the car at the start of the first original 1978 film, could I have been more specific there? Even she's in it. And you know what? It's cool seeing them, but they don't really add a whole lot to this film. Mainly because they all die. I mean, I think they all die. I think Lindsay died. I'm pretty sure she died. I mean, it says a lot that I can't remember whether she died or not. She had that big of an impact on me. Yeah, so the legacy characters. Cool seeing them. Could have easily have done the same story with a whole set of new characters. And if you're going to kill them all off before we get to the next movie, there's not even anything they can do for the next film, so what's the point in bringing them back? Other than to make us go, look, we know that person from the original. And also Lonnie's in it, and he was the kid that Loomis scared off from going into the Myers house. He dies as well. Everybody dies. There's less death at the Red Wedding. And another thing this film does is it shows us some flashback scenes from what happens after the credits roll from the original film. And this, I promise, I'm getting to the Officer Hawkins stuff, it leads into that. Promise. We don't spend a whole lot in flashback land, but I like what they did with it. I mean, the last film filled us in with what happened, Michael got captured, but it's nice to see it in more detail. And I like how they did it. We see a young Officer Hawkins encounter Michael in his home, and he freaks out and accidentally shoots his partner, who Michael was using as a human shield. We also see Dr. Loomis, and I think they did a pretty decent job of recreating Loomis, and without CGI. That being said, he doesn't add a whole lot to this film, but it's a nice little addition. But yeah, after Hawkins encounters Myers and kills his partner, Michael walks out of his house and stands in the exact spot he stood in after killing his sister all those years ago. Which I liked a lot because it shows a little insight into Michael's mind and also reflects the original film. Loomis then goes to execute him, but young Hawkins stops him, and they take Michael in instead. And then, cut to modern day, we see Officer Hawkins recovering in hospital alongside Laurie, saying how he saved Michael and that it became his biggest regret, and that he feels every one of Michael's victims after that point was on him. And this helps us understand his obsession with killing Michael Myers that we saw in the last film. Hell, his first lines in this film was, "He needs to die. He needs to die. He needs to die," because there's blood coming out everywhere. He's like, "He needs to die." But yeah, he has an obsession with killing Michael, and we didn't quite understand why, other than he's a serial killer. But now that we've seen this little bit of the flashback, we understand it. Yeah. It was good. So the way they handled Officer Hawkins, I thought was great. And the end of this film sets him, Laurie and Allison up as the larger roles for the next film. In part because pretty much everybody else is dead, but still. And remember Cameron, Allison's dick of the boyfriend from the last film, the one that was cheating around, kissing other girls, that sort of thing. And I thought to myself at the time, Michael's gonna kill him. And then he never did. He didn't in that film. Well, he's in this film. He gets the most gruesome death of all. But the thing is, they redeem his character. He's in the film quite a bit. And he joins the search for Michael Myers. They show us that he's brave, he's loyal, he will defend Allison to his dying breath. And then he has a dying breath. So it's nice that they made him likeable. But he's dead now, like 99% of everybody else in this film. Seriously, is anyone left alive in Haddonfield anymore? So with this being the midpoint in this trilogy of Halloween films, I'm curious about the next film. Let's look at the events so far. Halloween 2018. We see Laurie's obsession with killing Michael, but Michael no longer cares about Laurie and has seemingly forgotten she exists, which is quite rude. But, you know, if a mass murderer forgets you exist, I probably think that's a good thing, really. Michael's doctor lets him escape and forces him on a collision path with Laurie. Michael's doctor then dies, and we get a really cool showdown between Laurie and Michael. Laurie then traps Michael in a burning building. Then cue Halloween Kills. Michael escapes, kills lots and lots of people, and ends with Laurie, Allison and Officer Hawkins knowing that Michael needs to die, as well as a big wig federal guy who will likely help them. So with where we are up to, what does that really mean for Halloween Ends? It seems like they are setting up a big showdown with Michael and Laurie again. But we already got that in the last film. Also, will it take place on the same night? If so, who's going to be in it? Because pretty much everybody is dead. And if it time jumps, do we risk losing some momentum? I certainly can't wait to find out, but as for this film, despite its flaws, I really like it. I didn't think it was as good as the original or the 2018 film, but it was certainly a lot better than a lot of the sequels. And it had some serviceable characters, redeemed a character from the last film, and a lot of well-executed death scenes. Returning director David Gordon Green, in my opinion, did a solid job. Or at least I think so. Rotten Tomatoes seems to disagree with me quite a bit, at least when it comes to the critics side of it, but who cares about that? I enjoyed it, and I look forward to Halloween Ends. You have been watching Good or Bad, and I hope you have a spooktacular Halloween. Really, guys? Spooktacular? Are we really stooping to that now? Jesus Christ. No, we're still rolling. Bye. So as you all know, I love the Halloween series. It's my favourite Flavorlet. There we go. Alrighty, Flavorlet. It's my Flavorlet slasher series.